Welcome to Cool Fucking Tech, where we discuss our takes on the latest tech.
We amplify the voices on the forefront of new solutions and explore the possibilities of creating a fair and equitable world.
I heard you took a ride in one of Elon Musk's boring tunnel hyperloop device. You made it to Twitter, dog.
What a great fucking start, dude. No.
You did not?
No. What?
Damn.
What makes you think I'm that popular, Tatenda?
No. Like, your popularity is to the extent that Elon personally invited you to take a ride on his transportation of the future, which is like, is it like a couple of miles underground? I think that's like what the plan is.
I was like literally just talking with my roommates, and the Hyperloop like randomly came up. It wasn't the Hyperloop. It was just the like boring tunnel.
Yeah.
And just how pathetically bad it was, and like how like basically they tried interviewing Elon Musk, and like they tried going on a ride through the 1 mile of tunnel.
Right.
And then during the thing, like it started shaking a bunch, like in the car, and they had to stop it because like some car like got stuck in the rail system.
Oof.
Or some bullshit, and they had to like, you know, evacuate the reporter and everything else. And I was like, this is the trashiest thing ever.
But you know how it is, right? Like, technologies of the future, they don't work now.
You know, okay, I 100% agree that there is some failure that is 100% necessary, like
Right.
to develop technology. And I think that is something that is like an unsung price of tech development that people really don't realize, is that like nothing happens in a vacuum. There really isn't such a thing as like first time successes. There's just people who paid it forward, usually.
True.
But I'd be damned if I gave Elon Musk a compliment.
Maybe if you say like Elon Musk enough times, then, you know, I don't know, something will happen. We said Amazon.com a lot in the last episode. So
yeah, so this is
we'll try with
this is
the Did you hear about I know this is a tangent. Like, we'll get back to why I raised the topic of the Hyperloop in a second, but he opened a Gigafactory in Austin, I believe. I might be getting the location wrong, but that's something that happened recently.
Yeah, it's, you know, wild. And I was actually going to, like, on the topic of transportation, I was going to like bring it back to like Kirchhoff scale and like basically how we judge civilizations by energy. And then I was all like, and this guy's like, oh, Gigafactory. I'm like, fuck, man.
No, we're talking about all things. Yeah. This is the Elon Musk episode.
This is the Elon. Dude, if you say Musk 3 times in the mirror, Grimes appears.
Anyway. Let's not get sidetracked. So the reason I bring up hyperloops and like these interesting modes of transportation is just the discussion we had, you know, a couple of weeks ago or last week about thinking about what cities will look like in the future, right? And I think like we both agree that a core part of that will be how transportation will change to benefit the people living in the cities, right? And I think like, you know, although the Boring Company and that Hyperloop tunnel was ill-fated, or, you know, maybe it might be something that happens in the future, but, you know, one of the things they're trying to solve is like, you know, the connectivity problem and, you know, getting people to places they need to be quickly, you know, without having to just like sit through 12 hours of traffic, you know?
Right. You know, I was like really thinking about like this whole urban planning thing. And like the cool thing about it is like urban planning is essentially fucking synonymous with transportation. And like, why is it synonymous with transportation is a really interesting thing that, you know, could lead to a lot of interesting tech outbreaks, or has led to a lot of interesting tech outbreaks. But then is like woefully not pointed in the right direction, or not efficient in achieving the like probably the best goals that you could get. So like essentially transportation is needed for like the most amount of people to participate in the economy as possible. Right? And like the real problem with transportation in America is like that economy has always been somewhat and I know we're like starting this section off early, right? But it's all
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. As he sips his tea. This guy's sipping tea right now as he says, go ahead. I love it. Is like it really had already had racial disparities built into it. So like the real like, very beginnings of structuring of city planning in America, like anything beyond colonies, like the first interstate highway system was actually because of the slave trade. And it was like two parts. One was like the slave trade across the transatlantic was made illegal. So there was like an increased profitability per sale per unit of the slave. So basically states that had less work for slaves to do were trying to trade them to more southern states and then to also perpetuate their businesses. So like Virginia was like trying to sell slaves to Alabama, and that actually created the interstate highway system in America. But like the point stands is that like it's just problem after problem after problem that's like tied back to like racial disparities and related very closely to like the economics of the situation. So like after that was like redlining, and then after redlining was just like how interstates were built in the more modern times, and they just went through black and brown districts, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I was just like, what the hell? Like it was really hard for me to do research for this episode that didn't bring up how urban planning has really like worked to negate a lot of the gains that's been made by minority communities.
Yeah, I mean, I saw similar things in my research, right? Where there is racism within the planning itself. And then, another level of it is like the structural racism that's there in the systems that are built on top of, the metro line or the bus systems, etc. And it's unfortunate that that's the way it is, because it just perpetuates those inequalities and just drives a bigger wedge between the haves and the have-nots, right? And
Right.
I guess this is another part of our thinking where we have to look at how those policies can be changed, given, say, a blank slate, or even like given an opportunity to make some changes. Like, what are the changes that we can enact to close those gaps? Because it's a fact, right? Like, if you can't easily commute to get a good education or access to health services, then your outcomes are going to be immediately impacted, right?
Right.
And
yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, I was thinking more and more about it. I'm like, oh, actually, like this is like the next logical step from our previous conversation in a lot of ways, because it like really exemplifies like algorithmic bias. Like almost all the data sets that we were talking about were based off geographies.
Mm-hmm.
And then those were just based off of like these systematic racist systems that, just basically skewed observations towards having these biases built into them that is just essentially error carried forward. And I was like, oh, that's like the most wild thing ever. So like,
Right.
When you're talking about like transportation to like medical facilities or like education, it was zip codes. You remember there was like one of the data sets that was like zip codes was the best indicator for like college, for likelihood of getting into like an Ivy League college. And it was really like an indication of affluency, which is really an indication of like, this redlining that happened previously. And I was like, oh man, like it's all connected.
Of course,
So,
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the train of thought there from the previous episode, and I totally agree with you there, right? Like, there is that perpetuation and like reinforcement, and sometimes like we pointed out in the last episode, like sometimes it is intentional that they propagate these biases in these systems to just keep the oppressed. Just thinking about, say, access to services. Like, what are your thoughts on how we could improve certain aspects of transportation, considering that, transportation is like, right, we're agreeing that transportation is a key part of improving access to services and improving outcomes in a lot of parts of these communities. Now, as we're going forward, right, we might see that more people will move into cities, more people will need better access to facilities. Like, what are some of your thoughts about, the directions that we're going in improving transportation and improving mobility?
Dude, I fucking love it when you ask me the same question I was going to ask you. And no, I'm going to add a couple twists after before I get back.
All right, go ahead.
So I was like looking up first, like verifying the problem, first step, right? So does transportation really affect life outcomes? And it turns out overwhelmingly, I'm not going to like cite a bunch of papers right now on this podcast, but like overwhelmingly, the places where Black and brown communities are located are in places that are like transportationally disadvantaged. Like in multiple ways, like lack of access to public transit, lack of access to cars, lack of access to grocery stores, lack of access to healthcare. And there's strong correlations between that and various life outcomes. So like various outcomes of like, having severe health issues, various outcomes of like how much time it takes you to do routine tasks, various outcomes like, wages to be earned or like the cost of earning those wages, et cetera, et cetera. So the problem is there, and it's definitely like related to transportation, and that's related to how it's planned with these Black and brown communities. So there are a lot of advents in transportation that have happened, like Uber or like scooters, like the electric scooters or like shared bikes. And then so I was like, oh man, all these kind of couple mile mobility things, last mile mobility things, I'm actually really curious. I'm like, would that have helped minorities? So then I started looking into like that specifically. And then I found out like statistic over statistic, what you find is that Uber and like Postmates and like Lyft fuck over Black and brown communities in terms of the payment, and fuck over Black and brown communities in terms of like how expensive it is to get a ride there.
Yeah.
And it's a twofold thing. And then I also looked up statistics related to the scootering thing. And the Lime CEO, okay, this is what really got me, okay? The Lime CEO, Lime is actually funded in part by Kevin Durant's venture capital fund. Okay, so they have a Black shareholder, as one of their main shareholders. And he came out in 2020 and was like, yo, we got a problem. Only 17% of our riders self-identify as Black or brown. And he's like, and we don't know why. And we're going to roll out a bunch of different things to address this, right? And in that proposal, there was things like half off fares in underserved communities. So like it was like South Side, West Side, Chicago. And then there was, what else did they do? They made sure, this is kind of wild. They made sure that the scooters were placed in underserved communities. And in my head, I was like, what the fuck? You guys didn't make sure of that like from the get-go? Like, how did that one slip up? Like that's one of those things where I would maybe not even admit to. And then the third one was, no, I think that was it. And I was just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, this is the most wild shit I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know, man. So when I was like really thinking about it, I came across another statistic where it was like, oh, hey, it's really not the fact that it might not necessarily be the fact that that there's barrier to usage of these other forms of transportation, like a taxi or a shared vehicle or a bicycle. It was particularly talking about bicycles, so that was the reference for this statistical fact that I'm going to bring up. But there is like a strong correlation of like Black and brown communities that prefer cars over anything. And a part of the reason, like some of the reasoning that they put up for preferring cars, so like a lot of the respondents said like, oh, safety. And then the statistician aptly pointed out, like the chance of violence happening to you on a car, or sorry, in a bicycle, on a scooter, in a shared ride like a Uber, is so much fucking higher than like a white counterpart, right? And they were saying, that alone could explain away like most of this preference for car. Like the fact is that there's so much like vigilantism and like cops that are like over policing these shared forms of transportation to where you might not even want to do it because it's so much more dangerous for that person to use it than other ones, and that actually ends up being an effective cost to you. Like, so yeah, I was like, oh man, that's fucking crazy. So my next thing is, this is all points to my solution. I'm sorry I'm going through it.
No, go ahead.
I'm telling you the user journey, the hyper segmentation, like a true PM, right?
Let's do it.
Right. So I think like really, I saw another startup, and basically it was a shared bike startup, and the guy had 57% Black customers as his demographic. And it was basically just securing the safety of the bikes when they leave them. And so it's just, to me, it's all just like a safety. Largely, like probably the Parado of it is just like increasing safety. I don't know what you have to do to get a scooter more safe. I sure as shit do know what you have to do to get an Uber more safe. And that is have less dick drivers on the road.
Are they still like vetting drivers? Do they ever vet the drivers at all?
Okay, listen. If anyone is listening to me right now, guys, I did so I did a deep app study, which included me getting approved by Uber to drive for them. Honestly, let me tell you, the vetting that they do is nothing. They don't do anything other than a background check. And I could pass a background check.
Right. And so they're not like trying to screen for
No. And then like there was an instance where like so like I would just call customer support and see what would happen. Like all the time, just to like see if the stories are true, like some real like infographic interviewing, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And like one time some dude like punched my car and like put a dent in it. And I was like, yo, Uber, like you guys said that you have insurance, like that I'm covered while I'm driving. Am I covered for this dent? And they're like, nope. And they immediately like start trying to hang up. I'm like, you guys can't hang up on me now. Like I have damage to my car. I want you to pay for it. But like everything that you see for Uber is like, oh yeah, you're covered. Oh yeah, you don't have to worry about anything. Yada, yada, yada. But so we're taking a break from Musk to talk shit on Uber. My question to you was, okay, let's just say you're trying
Elon
to
Musk.
get what? Yeah, you're Elon Musk. Yeah, no, you can be Elon Musk. I'm fine with it if you want to be him. Okay, how would you solve like the transportation issue or like transportation adoption among those that are least able to participate in the like best parts of the economy?
So a general answer would be better access, less policing, and affordability.
I see.
Right. So one of the main reasons I bring up access is because I think it's like really hard to get around. Like, say if the nearest BART station is 3 miles away.
This guy's in Oakland, by the way, guys. Just by the way. It's like let's talk about the BART.
In some hypothetical part of America where the Bay Area rapid transit system runs through, it'll be really hard for you to get anywhere, if a BART station is like 3 miles away, you know what I mean? So it's a similar kind of, I guess, like thing that bike startup was trying to address is like accessibility is big, safety is big, security is big. And then, affordability is also a part of it, which is why, Lime attempted to, have a program where they give discounts for their rides, right? Because most of the time, at least like in the research that I did, what you would see is that, right, like within these systems, you have to get to where you want to go right now, right? You would have to pay less. You can pay less, but it will take you longer, right? that's really not going to work out in any case, right? Like you're not really solving the problem in the sense that the option isn't as great as you make it out to be, right? And that's obviously, like we pointed out, like a result of structural racism and things of that nature. So that's what I think. And just trying to think, like, can we do something to fix the current cities, right? So there's the hypothetical solution, right? Like what the solution would look like. And the next part of the question is like, can that solution be implemented in cities as they are, or do we need to tear everything down and basically build all these cities up from scratch?
Yeah, 100. So this is what we're gonna do, Tatenda, for our first startup. Okay. We're gonna go out. We're gonna go to, I don't know, some like Hodunk desert area of America, like Nevada. Talking to you guys right now. No, I'm just joking. No, I don't know. You know what I think? Like, okay, I'm gonna sing your praises here, Tatenda. For those that don't know, I'm not gonna say Tatenda's company name, but Tatenda works for an AI car startup company that's actually successful and doing a great job. And like I was thinking, like, hey. So there's two parts to this, right? One is like that whole Kirchhoff scale and energy, right? Which is, okay, transportation essentially is an expungement of energy to be productive in society.
Right.
Like, long story short, like you're spending energy to raise your GDP as an individual. So like, even if you're like going to the grocery store, even if it's something mundane, right? Even if you're going to the grocery store, you're actually spending money to be a productive worker in some sense. Like at the bare minimum, you're staying alive so you can work again the next day, or at least that's how the economy would see you, right?
Right.
And so if energy costs really went down and they were equitably distributed, I think that would be like one of the key things to that. Now, is that entirely true? Somewhat, you could like track that we become more equitable of a society as energy costs for transportation went down. Like
on the consumer, right?
On the consumer, right? Exactly. Yeah. So, but that's a multifaceted thing. So like you're right to point out on the consumer, but it's like on a per consumer basis. So like the reason why I'm connecting all these dots is if you had a car, let's say you had a car, right?
Yeah.
And it was truly shared amongst a bunch of people. And the cost of loading it up with energy and it's low, right? And then it's entirely utilized. Most cars, they get used once in the morning. They sit in a fucking garage. Then they get used once to get out of work. Then they sit in the garage. And then maybe you go out and do an errand. And then they sit in a garage overnight. And that's a car's life cycle. It's used 3 times during a day for one person. Now, if you were to utilize the car 100% and made that truly economical and equitable, right? I think that would probably do the most damage to the problem that is unequivocal living in a city area. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
you're answering the question of things we can do to address the problem right now, like with the cities that we have.
Yeah, we take $1 billion, we make AI cars that we can share. No one owns a car. The cars just like basically are like mini buses, if you will, with like hyper efficient transportation routes. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you had one car between 5-6 people and it could just drive itself between those routes, like that would be phenomenal. Like, and the ownership of a car or the ownership of the right to get fast, reliable transportation was like cut by a quarter, cut by 50% even, you know, like that'd be just phenomenal. Like I couldn't think of something that'd be more efficient in terms of enabling freedom of like the common person, really.
I wonder if there's been a comparison of autonomous vehicles for electrified autonomous vehicles for transportation. These are ground-based versus an air-based version of the same thing.
Like drones?
Yeah, like there's that. The 2 examples that I found, one is called Jetson, and you fly that thing by yourself. So it's like a quadricopter that you sit inside of and you fly it. But there's also an autonomous vehicle called EHang, and they call it a passenger autonomous aerial vehicle, right? An AAV, right? How do you think that these would compare? Do you think that the utility of having your own might outweigh the cost savings of sharing the vehicle amongst multiple people? And I guess if it was autonomous at that point, like you could just like fly it between, different people. It would work in the same way, except that it would only carry one person at a time.
No, you know what? I think like the big thing that people are not getting is like, what can autonomy do? Right? Like, I mean, everyone knows what it can do functionally, but like, how could that actually play out in a society? Right? So like, I don't see any benefit to owning.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, I could see the prestige about it, right? But like, as a luxury product, like, hey, I have this fucking drone. I'm going to just fly around. Right? But like, the main cost inhibitor is the utilization of the asset. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not getting ran to the dirt. Like, if it was getting ran to the dirt, like, you would be cutting your costs of utilizing the asset by, 50%, or 70 or 25% at least, right?
Do you think they're gonna have a first class cabin in these shared autonomous vehicles?
Oh hell yeah, dude! They're gonna have first class everything, dude. Inelastic demand, man. Like, of course they're gonna have first class. It's gonna be a joke, dude. It's gonna be an absolute joke. But in terms of like, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, at least like the designs that I've seen, like, wouldn't allow for it unless like Elon has something up his sleeve.
The designs I've seen though, they're marketing like the drones as as prestige vehicles though.
Oh, I was talking more about the first class in any of the shared. Either it be a drone, either it be ground transportation.
Have you ever heard of an Uber entrepreneur?
An Uber entrepreneur?
Yeah. This is actually really cool. So like an Uber entrepreneur is like people who set up shop in their Uber.
Wait,
so
what?
Yeah. Right. Okay. And this is like a cool like technology on technology type thing. So like basically there's a whole startup that's spinned off of this too, by the way. Okay. So basically it's people who sell goods while driving the Uber. Okay. So one example is somebody had like a jewelry shop in their Uber car and would sell while they're driving the person.
That's amazing.
And this person ended up making like over 50% of their income via the sales that they made during rides, versus doing the actual work, right? And then there was a startup that basically spun off of this so there's a couple startups. So like one is you put a logo on your car and it's like a digital logo or like digital ad space in your car and they pay you out for the digital ad space.
I've seen that one.
Yeah. And then there's another one where it's like they fucking like make your car a vending machine essentially, right? And they stock your car with like Kit Kats and like sodas.
Right. That's like the generalization of the jewelry store, right?
It is a generalization. Yeah, it's a total like tech commodification of like your space.
That's pretty cool though.
It's cool. It's interesting, right? Like it's interesting to think about it in economic impact for enabling Black and brown communities to participate in entrepreneurship. But it's not cool because it's just like you're selling an ad in now your personal space to make a living. You know what I'm saying? Like you're literally inviting Coca-Cola in your car. so you could get by and like eat Denny's that night. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like dehumifying. Dehumifying, is that a word?
Dehumanizing.
Dehumanizing. Okay, King.
That sounds terrible. You don't want to dehumanize anything or anybody. Don't do that. Okay, so I definitely like the idea of shared autonomous transportation. Basically, so we can have better utilization of time and energy resources within cities of the future. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
also add to that capital cost, though.
What's that?
Capital, like upfront capital costs of the asset. But yeah,
right.
I agree. Right. Anyways, yeah.
Now, the one thing that I'm wondering is like, what will the mix of modes of transportation look like that will enable us to get there? You know what I mean? Like, fine.
I feel it. Yeah.
Fine. Like let's say personal vehicles are gone, but what happens in the delivery vehicle space? Are we still going to want to have some trains running around, and what are those going to look like? Do we want drones to be flying around in addition to the shared vans and delivery vehicles and so on? What I wanted to know, like, what your thoughts are on.
I want to know what your thoughts are. But go on. Yo, you got thoughts? Let's hear
No,
them,
no, no,
man.
no, no. It's a question. It's a question. Answer the question, man.
No, dude, you know what? Like, so flight is more efficient than ground. Well, like vehicles, right?
Yeah.
Because you could go as the bird flies from point A to point B, but it's more energy per unit payload, right? More energy per kilogram in the air than it is on a car. So you're cutting distance, but increasing energy per unit weight. So okay, that's like an interesting trade-off. But then like there's the maglev things.
Maglev.
And like that shit is like that I don't even honestly like I read some stuff about it and I was like reading basically train conductor engineers synopsises of it and I was all like, man, I'm not a train engineer.
I know. That's pretty cool stuff right there. I gotta say.
They're all telling about the engine and everything else.
Actually,
that's some wild shit. Like,
can you do like a computer guy segment for us and explain what a maglev train is? Mark, the computer guy, he's gonna explain.
I'm never gonna hype you up again. Like, not another day in my life, because it's only haunted me. Okay, so as the computer guy here, a maglev is basically just magnetic levitation, and basically what it does is it passes through a charge on this railway system to push along a caboose, and it's hyper efficient because essentially you have no friction.
Right on.
Now, there's different versions of the maglev that's in use today, or or at least in theory being produced. Then there's like another version, which is the hyperloop, which is like, okay, now you have a vacuum and you're just shooting through this thing as fast as possible. Now, a hyperloop can reach up to, I think, like 600, 700 miles per hour. I think a traditional maglev is like 200 to 300 miles per hour. So basically, a maglev is a little slower than a plane. A hyperloop is faster than a plane. And add to that sometimes they actually do have wheels when they're going slow, which is 150 miles per hour, which to me is booking it.
Like the thing about it, like I just wanted to say that I think is like pretty cool that like the wheels, you know,
they're just hanging out, man. Like I feel so shitty. Like if I was the person on the team that's essentially the wheels on the caboose.
Like at 150 miles an hour, like that's it. Like, you know, like that's it. Like your part of the project ends here, sir. You know, but that's some cool fucking tech, right? Like the wheels then
cool fucking tech
just disappear and you're floating on magnets, basically. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah. So another thing is that like true incarnations of this could actually have a very wide range of movement, which I thought was fucking awesome. So like it could go up, down, left, right, forward, back, you know, full, whatever the track is going, really. And it's all just based off electrical charge. And actually it's more efficient per unit electricity than a plane. And a plane is like hyper efficient. Yeah. I was like, oh shit, that's fast and cheap, relatively speaking. But the cost to set it up is astronomical, and then also like you had to have a lot of dedicated space, which is like the main trade-offs here. And if you die for sure. You go 600 miles per hour into a wall.
So there's two things that I want to talk about. One is just piggybacking off the point that you just made of you got to have space. I think this is one of the reasons why it's just like incredibly hard to see innovation within the rail space in the US because of space.
Right.
Space, property rights, and all of this, just land and land related issues that inhibit innovation within that space. And it's rather unfortunate, right? If you look at examples of how cities in Asia, in China specifically, have benefited from interconnectivity using technology such as maglev, it's amazing, right? You're increasing, I guess, like the amount of opportunities that are available to people within those economic regions. You're almost like building super cities, right? If it takes like 15 minutes to get between here and LA, you know, it's one city basically. 15 minutes is one city. So you're basically building super cities, increasing opportunities and things of that nature, which I think, you know, going back to the point which we talked about how transportation can help people or close the inequality gap. And this is one of those things, right? You could have more opportunities by, you know, being able to, you know, to travel to different places. The other
Get
thing,
better jobs.
get better jobs.
Yeah, that's what it is, man.
You get better jobs, right? So I thought that that part of it was very interesting, or that aspect, or that potential in maglev and these high speed rail networks is very interesting. And then another thing I was thinking about is like whether or not they're actually using these in inner city, right? Like not inner city, but like within dense urban environments, and what that would look like.
The communities.
You know what I mean? Like there's two
yeah.
thoughts here that I'm thinking about, which is basically I've just been thinking about building things in the air, dog.
He just comes out and admits it.
You know what?
He's just like, yo, I just want to build shit in the air. Like, okay,
Right.
we'll get building, Tatenda.
But just thinking about like how hard would it be to I guess like build a new because if land is a problem, right, then we just build shit in the air. But I guess like a combination of those two things, right, where we can take an energy efficient mode of transportation that we have right now, which is maglev, and build it, I guess, like into the fabric of an existing city. And if that means like building it higher up in the air, then so be it. In fact, like maybe even stacking it on top of the road networks that we already have right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Just to sort of like improve connectivity, improve modes of transportation that are more energy efficient, and so on. That's at least like what I think could happen. I don't know if any cities, there probably are cities that are using maglev, maybe not in the way that I envisioned it, but close.
I have definitely seen superstructures on like freeways and highways.
Yeah.
Where essentially like it's in one form or another, there's like a fast lane that sits above the freeway.
Yeah.
Right. And then like there's one situation where basically it's like an on-ramp, off-ramp, and there's no real exits on that road itself, on that freeway itself. Mm-hmm. There's another one where it's like a bus and the wheels are like on the edges of the bylane. And it's just like a large vehicle that passes through the freeway and like all the traffic. It was like, those are like some ideas I've seen.
Oh.
Yeah, isn't that wild to be like, oh, there's the bus.
Yo, that's pretty cool. That's
Right.
pretty cool. I was gonna ask you if you'd been to Singapore, or if you know about like the Marina Bay.
Nah, bro, I'm poor.
I haven't been myself, but I think they're incorporating some of these ideas pretty much.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have a small little island, so they're
resource constrained.
They are very resource, and there's nothing that's going to get you to a solution faster. You know what I'm saying? And that's a part of why adoption is relatively hard. So like one thing you said is the space, right? Like that cannot be overemphasized enough as like a restriction towards adoption, because I think it was like even in the 1960s or 1950s. No, I think it was 1960s. Like when a lot of these interstate highway systems, like real modern interstate highway systems, were really being built, like we're talking about like mega freeways and stuff like this, they were having a huge problem getting through neighborhoods. So what would happen oftentimes is they would get a lot of legal backlash if they ever went through like an affluent neighborhood. And they were able quite easily to get through a lot of poor communities, which were Black and brown communities. So like oftentimes if you see like a church right next to a freeway, or if you see like, houses that were like sold or eminent domains to make a freeway, it was literally during that time period. So I was just like, oh man, that's crazy. Like if you start building out a hyperloop, I wonder if that would happen again. Like, like if you said like, oh yeah, we really need to go on this line. Oh, your house is eminent domain. Like, peace.
Yeah.
You got snuffed, like, so.
Oh, were you reading the same things that I was reading?
No, I don't think so, but maybe.
Man, I read about the same thing, man.
Right.
I gotta hide my notes from you. That's what
it's almost as if we like are in the same country with the same history.
Yeah, man.
I think so.
Weird, right?
That's super fucking weird, bro. Yeah, but if there was a hyperloop, man, I'd be like out in Oakland hanging out. You know what I'm saying? Like,
for sure.
That's the opportunity I'm missing out on.
I know. But yeah. So that's why I keep, I guess like being hung up on the air, right? I know like there's airspace rights, but once you're up there, it's like there's less land to mess with. But I guess building the infrastructure up in the air is also a challenge of its own. One thing, which is, slightly unrelated, but still on the topic of cities of the future, which I'm also thinking about, is like, how can we turn sort of like some of these problems on their heads? Like, the more, we go forward in time, right? Like, more people moving to cities, urbanization is increasing, but, there's no food in these cities, right? So similar thing is like,
right.
can we build better transportation systems? Even if it's not transportation systems, can we build like gardens on top of roads? You know what I mean? And have the food be produced right there? Because I feel like it feeds into the same energy equation that you're talking about. Right? Now, the cost of economic productivity is going to be higher per person if it costs them more to buy that food.
Yep.
Right. But if we're growing food like right in the city, right there on my rooftop, in my green space or whatever, then maybe that could also be something that, that could be of benefit to cities of the future, or actually cities of tomorrow. Who knows?
Yeah. No, I've been like looking at a lot of like vertical gardening stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fucking trippy, dude. Or like urban like community gardens and stuff. I really didn't realize until we started doing research about like how problematic it is if you have to go an extra mile to the grocery store. I really didn't realize. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like too affluent. I don't know, dude. But like, I was just like,
you had a good life, man.
What?
You had a good life, man.
I know, right? Like, but it was crazy. Like, they had like a correlation for like every mile, like how many problems you run into, how much cost it is, and it's significant. It is actually significant. And then not only that, there's like a good argument to be said about quality of food and the types of grocery stores that are available to you within that distance. So like, they pointed out to diet discrepancies in these communities, and like, and there's some, obviously there's going to be like the counter argument, like, oh, well, they just are eating shitty foods. But like, these grocery stores are like, their best food is a shit food. You know what I'm saying? The best thing out of Food for Less, which is next to me now, is like, fucking some chicken that got stabbed 10 times with hormones.
Right. Yo,
But,
man, are you going to get swole?
Dude, I'm going to get swole, dude.
Hormones, dude, crazy. Damn, you got a point, man. You got a point there too. Access to food, access to healthy food, impact on health and productivity is huge.
Right, and air pollution even.
Pollution.
There's that whole like, when we did our interview like 4 episodes ago, we interviewed Dr. Parker.
Yeah,
and the big thing that came up for our research for that was basically climate racism and how like these communities front a lot of the climate change problems. So like, they're in places that are more flood likely. They're in places with higher pollution rates. They're in places with lower water quality. They're in places with like all these kinds of things that are just, I would have never really thought of if I didn't look at the numbers and was like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, that one meme where like it's all the math like going on in your head and you could see everything like connect. That's what I was like. Oh, Dr. Parker, you're blowing my fucking mind, bro.
I know, interesting.
And he's just like talking about like quantum mechanics.
Yeah, smart man.
He was chill. But yeah, I mean, I think like hydroponics, stuff like that. Like I've seen what's really sad is like I see the exact opposite of where the solution is best meant for. So like I see vertical gardens and stuff now in urban planning more as an architectural accent in luxurious spaces than as a functional resource for underprivileged communians, which
absolutely right.
Fucking blows my fucking mind. So like you go to Apple, we both worked in the Bay. Okay, I'm a real talk some shit here, guys. So you go to Apple's campus, okay, guys? And they have walls of plants. And in the center of their campus, too, they have apple trees. And they charge you like an astronomical amount of money for the apples off the apple trees at the Apple campus. And it's just hilarious to me. It is just the most like wasteful, redundant, like why can't we just like get one plot, put one vertical garden,
I know, man.
Put some lettuce, put some like, this is like, there's so many things like that we could be spending money on. So I guess the real thing is, okay, so I'm going to tie this all back for you, Tatenda. I'm going to ask you a question, okay?
Oh man, I'm not ready. I'm not ready, listeners.
So Biden's Build Back Better plan actually gave, I think they had 2 billion earmarked, 2 billion, I think, earmarked for just basically leveling the playing field, if you will, in urban planning. They had various ways. And I just want to know if you were, since you asked me if I was Biden, if I was Musk, you're going to be Biden. If you're Biden, tell me what tech you would buy out for these urban planning and how you would level this playing field with your 2 billion. You only got $2 billion, okay? And there's no sky building. We want real solutions. Just because it's 420 doesn't mean you could start building in the sky, okay, guys?
All right. So the first thing I do is get on the phone tomorrow with Tim Cook and ask them who the hell designed the Apple campus. Step one.
Tatenda wins.
Right? Because, I'll answer your question, but as I guess you did say it was wasteful in some sense, or didn't seem like it made sense, but it's also really brilliant, right? You think about how...
Yeah, that's fair.
You think about how they've designed these spaces to be you have to walk 2 minutes to get food. You can, it's 2 minutes to get food, 2 minutes to get healthcare, 2 minutes to take a nap. You know what I mean? I'm saying 2 minutes, but it's maybe 2 to 10, whatever it is. But everything is right there within your space, right? So you solve the transportation, you solve the food thing, you have trees, so, better air quality, et cetera, et cetera. That's pretty much, like you pointed out, the fundamental, I guess, design strategy that should be put into all housing development, planning, right? So it should be mandatory that all buildings should come with these spaces, right? So one of the things which I thought was interesting from the research that we did for this podcast is this whole concept of garden cities, right? And I think some of the concepts that some of the tenets of garden cities could still be implemented, within the current structures. So things that we're talking about, increasing the amount of green spaces, right? Rethinking what we do with roofs in these spaces, right? Also thinking about ways we can integrate, like you're talking about, food production within those neighborhoods or within areas that are basically food deserts, right? So you're talking about a combination of improving the quality of life by improving access to food, improving air quality, and improving, I guess mobility within those spaces, right? So that could be something that could be at the forefront of these plans. And I also think there might not be a lot of drastic changes that they need to implement, but there's things that you can do, right? To improve safety on a road, for example, right? So have less traffic moving through some of these neighborhoods, right? So you open up the whole road to make a mall, so to speak, right? And after that, you're basically now creating space within that urban environment to do more things, right? Convert that mall into a green space and so on, right? So that's at least off the top of my head, the ways that I see that this could happen. But it can't happen. And I said, you can't build a garden and then not provide the bikes. You know what I mean? All of these solutions.
It has to be art. Oh man, I can't think of the word right now, my dude. Orchestrated.
Right. Yeah, it has to be well orchestrated to make all these complementary pieces work together, right?
Right.
Improve access to food, improve mobility, improve access to health, and so on. So that's generally my ideas on how this could happen or how this could be implemented with the current sets of constraints that we have.
I know you didn't really trail there. That's what I think.
No. I trailed.
You guys don't know this, but Tatenda's a fucking genius. And I shit you guys not. I've been showing my coworkers some of Tatenda's products that he worked on, and all my friends are like, "Oh wow, Mark, you're smart because you have a smart friend." And I'm just fuck me.
That's how it works. You're right. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if you weren't smart too. We should call this cool fucking tech and a couple of smart guys. You know what I mean?
A couple of smart guys, dude. Yeah, man. I think like one critical, well, you hit on like orchestration of like a full circle solution, right? Like, and that was really that really got me. And like one thing that I was thinking about is like, we didn't really talk too much about like telehealth and like how telehealth reduces transportation needs and like could be like a part of this like orchestrated holistic solution. Like,
Yeah, but that's got to be combined with things like improving access to broadband internet, right?
right. Yeah. So like, yeah, but I just don't want to miss like one part. Like,
yeah, I feel
you have internet, cool, right? But then like, what do you do with that internet? And that could actually tie back to like all these things, right? So like, not even, I'm going to one up you, right? Because we both come from Qualcomm.
Qualcomm.
Like the whole IoT play, right? In general, like, okay, you have good internet, you have good connectivity among devices. Now you could have smart horticulture in urban spaces where it's particularly space intensive and accuracy is much higher impact on the production. And then you could have telehealth, community centers where I don't know if you are really up to date with telehealth startups right now, but like they basically have testing facilities that could service like 100 people in like a single room versus like a hospital that like has to process you very slowly. It's just like one quick body scan, you get your BMI, your health, your weight, yada yada yada, even like your cholesterol levels, etc. And then you piss in a cup and they like send it off in the lab. It's just all done via electronics and like the scale is so much faster. I mean, it's not like really there quite yet, but there are some devices that, cost like $1 million. So like the economics of like passing through 100 people a day, like makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just everything working in tandem. And that's like the real interesting thing about like this whole urban planning. It's not just like transportation is like an overhead. You know what I'm saying? Like it's an overhead to access to all of these things. But like, if you did all of these things and just took away the need for transportation, then like that's also something to be said, right? Like
absolutely. It goes back to like, the question I was asking you earlier, like bring the food to the people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's just like one thing off like when you were talking about like Apple, right? Like all these big tech companies, they know what the fuck you want to do in your day. Okay. I shit you guys not, like any big tech company's campus, they make it easy as fuck for you to stay on campus all day, every day.
Like
they got
Tesla,
laundry.
Right?
Yeah, like Tesla or Facebook or Google. They got laundry on site. They got a masseuse on site. They got a mental health advisor on site. They got groceries. They got food. They got sleep labs. They got haircuts. And it's all because they know what tasks you're going to do in a day and they make it hyper efficient and hyper convenient. So now you just don't want to go.
Nope.
Yeah, you could just sit on campus, hang out with your friends. They got places to hang out with your friends. Like they have arcades and stuff like that. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like let's just call whoever designed Apple's campus.
Exactly.
That guy should redesign every city. Like that's step one. Yeah. Of course, like he'll probably like charge $1 billion just for consultation.
Exactly. Yeah, okay, you know what, guys? Like if one person really could take one for the team and save humanity, it's the guy who designed Apple's campus. So if you're listening to this, take one for the team.
All right. So I got another thing I've been dying to bring up. It keeps like popping into my mind and then slipping out again. But while we're on this idea of how to redesign spaces given the current state of technology and the current constraints in urban environments, I came across this idea of it's basically a game called Play the City. It was in that article I sent you about the Dutch city testing the future of urban life, etc. And I guess like the idea of Play City, this game, is that you're basically exploring the space of urban planning through gamification. Right. So you're bringing in different stakeholders into the room and you're having them work together through a problem to solve for different constraints. So there's two things I think are interesting about that whole idea. One, just like the concept of designing a game to rapidly iterate through design choices is brilliant, right? And then just like the concept itself of like almost like crowdsourcing solutions through gaming to solve problems, that's some cool fucking tech right there.
That is some cool fucking tech, bro. Ask me as the gaming guy what I think.
We might need to do like an episode, just on using gaming to solve like biochemistry and chemistry and shit. Like that's like a
Bruh, those are like the two things.
we'll call it the Mark episode.
We'll call it the Mark. Exactly, man. That's funny. I'm not sure if I read that one. So like it's gamifying city design. I've seen some stuff. Okay, I've seen this. This is actually really funny and it's like deeply related. You ever heard of City Skylines?
No.
Okay, so City Skylines is essentially SimCity on roids. Okay. And what ended up happening, okay, and it's developed as a game. This is a video game, just like a SimCity video game. So some people, some mathematicians, thought that it was really built incredibly well. So they started modding it. And what they did is they started doing like city planning calculations via this gaming infrastructure. And so like they just designed like, what was it, like roundabouts, like how many cars could pass in the roundabout, given like normal interactions between cars, and like would just find out the maximum throughput of these different roundabouts, like via this gamification where it's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna play around and like make several circles and like, you know, have several basically turn off lanes and figure out how like it could go best. And they made new designs that like, you know, we haven't had made yet. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? And I think that's like deeply related to what you're saying. And then I saw the exact opposite. So that's like on the design gamification side, right? Then there's the being a good fucking citizen gamification side, which is going to be like way bigger coming into Web3 and all this AR bullshit.
Interesting.
Right? Which is like, okay, so now you could earn social points for picking up a piece of trash. It's like, oh, you get like 25 gold coins for picking up this piece of trash, right? That would I'd call like the gamification of like being a good person. Then there's the Chinese surveillance version of it, where it's like you don't get gold coins, but instead of like you go piss in public, you like lower your social score ranking by the government, right? My opinion is, one, whoever is designing this game better be really fucking good, because I only play really fucking good games, and I'm not gonna play this bullshit game. Like I'm not gonna. That's one. Two. So really, this is an evolution, and okay, so this is gonna get far and then come back relevant, right? This is like an evolution of ecological gamification. And ecological gamification, like basically start off with gamifying surveying of different like animal populations or different pollution populations in the world, like ecologically. So like, I'll give you an example. So like one of them is all like, did you spot this jellyfish on this beach? You could report it, right? And now you could get a population number on this jellyfish. It's an endangered species. Now you know what's up with this. Another version is like, so it first started off with like sharks. So it's like, oh, is there a great white shark like on this thing? Like, you know, and they're super endangered. So now they have population numbers because every time a surfer runs into a shark, he's like, yo, this is the shark. They have a engineering factor for like, you know, how many sharks are out in the water versus how many sightings, gives you a rough population number,
right?
Et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of like the next iteration of it, where it's like, okay, you know, now we could do it for us. We're the animals, right? And I really don't know. Like, I don't know if this is going to be like as a viable solution. I don't know if it's going to be more important or less important in the future, where like we're creating technologies to essentially be non-functioning in the real world, right? So like AR, VR, like you're in some way, you're reducing your capacity of participating in the real world itself, right? So like you're going to care less and less about the real world because you have options, right? You could, you know, go outside of your room. You know what I'm saying? So like that's one thing that I'm like, I don't know, man. Like,
I actually think it is even more important just trying to think about, say, hypothetically, right? If we do good, then probably people will need to work less and will want to spend more time at home or outdoors. That's just me. Maybe like, I'm an outdoorsy person, and that's just like my dream, right? But at least like that's the way I think about it, where like those things really might still be important, maybe not to everybody, but to some sections of the population for sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to sound pessimistic as fuck, but I'm about to say some real fucking heart-crushing things, which is like technologically, the inundation of technology has shown us that like people that, one, as we increase the sophistication of these solutions to like live in your own worlds via Facebook, via Instagram, via like just sitting in echo chambers of people that agree with you, we're doing it in a way that makes you addicted.
Yeah.
Right? That's like back to the doom scrolling thing. And these addictions are not going to lead to quote unquote healthy habits, quote unquote, like wanting to spend times outdoors, yada, yada, yada. Like the whole purpose of this is like, you know, they're selling a product and they want you to stay on that product.
Right.
And unfortunately, the mountaintop is not that product.
Right.
You know, the headset, the VR headset, that's the product. It's like, and they want you to sit in that as long as possible. So like, I really don't think that, I don't think that mountaintop will last long versus like, you know, hundreds of thousands of engineers building my wildest fantasy via VR.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it's going to not take them too long for me to be like, nope, I'm staying inside for the rest of my life.
I gotta need to go outdoors, you know, just have an IV run from the nearest hospital into my arm.
Right. And then use your body as a battery. And then Neo comes.
And then Are we in the Matrix right now? Is that what's happening?
We're in the 7th, iteration, revolution, or whatever they said.
Yeah. It's fascinating though, man. I really think that we should, at least like the powers that be or everyone in general should really think about how transportation has an impact. I just feel like it's you know, we don't talk about it that much, or maybe like I don't hang out with people that have this problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's definitely, you know, doing research for this episode definitely shed some light for me, enlightened me at least like on the structural problems that are there and like just the basic ways in which transportation at least like expanded my knowledge in that domain, you know?
Yeah, you know, honestly, I think it's even more wild hearing it from you, considering that you work for like a, you know, autonomous vehicle company. But like, you know, for me too, like I really didn't fucking get how transportation played into everything.
Yeah.
Like I really didn't think like it's so obvious when you say it out loud because like obviously you drive everywhere. Obviously your car is a big part of your life. Yeah. Obviously, like, you know, you hang out with the people that you're close to, like, you know, you break up with the girlfriends that are like long distance, yada, yada, yada. Like, but at the same time, I never thought about it. Like, I never really thought like, oh shit, like everything about this is so area carried forward, one, and then B, like it touches all these different technologies because of how it addresses all my needs.
Right.
And I was like, man, I am totally uneducated. I felt like this was the most impactful research I've done for myself via this podcast. So
I'm gonna be like super productive at work tomorrow. My boss is gonna be like, what the hell happened to you?
You're gonna look at them and be like, yo, I learned so much about transportation.
Like I believe the mission, but now
I got tattooed on my shoulder now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny, man. Okay, man. Hey, well, thanks a lot, bud. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Mark. It's been good. It's been good chatting.
Thanks, King.
All right.